And do you have any, fond, immediate memories that come to mind when you were an actual camper, as opposed to a counselor?
Well, there were a lot of things. So, I still remember the cabin names. I remember the Iroquois, and the Huron, and the Algonquin cabins,
Right.
and how they were all very proximate, close to each other. Mm-hmm. And outside of the cabins was the big wash stand where everybody congregated. It had the roof, it had cold running water. There was no hot water, anything like that. But they had the bowls, the basins, and that's where you washed up and that. So, and I remember the insides of the cabins really well. I mean, they were very rustic. They were six bunks, eight in a couple of them, springs. The mattresses, were very, very thin. You brought sleeping bags, of course, So I do, I quite vividly remember what it was like to be a camper. The dining hall was a big, expansive building. I mean, where the dining hall was and is now, still very much a memory. In the front of the dining hall, a big circle of rocks. And that's where the campfire was. So you had the campfire, but there was also a flagpole there. And then, so you'd come out of the dining hall, and there were a set of steps down, and you'd walk past the sort of the fire circle where all the whitewashed rocks were. And on the right-hand side was the boathouse.
Oh.
And the boathouse was at the water, and the docks, and docks ran out from it. And the war canoes were the thing that I think most of us from that period of time would really have remembered. So these war canoes, I think we put 18 or 20 paddlers in them.
Okay.
And I don't know the history of the war canoes. I don't know where they came from. But every year, I mean, when I was a camper, the war canoes were taken over to Kawartha Park Marina across the lake, where the regatta was held. And so there would be campers who would row the one war canoe, and then the cottagers would row the other. And I seem to remember that race always ended the regatta, and was kind of the big, the really big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, our canoeing, we all canoed. The swimming was really important to the Y, because a lot of us had the opportunity during the summer months when we were at camp to get our Red Cross and our bronze medallions and that. So many of us, took the swimming instruction while we were there. I mean, those were the things, playing baseball in the parking lot. There was a ball diamond up there. Okay. Hikes, go across the road into the back bush beyond. I can remember thinking, I'm never going to get out of here. And we had I do remember one day, I think it was Ronnie Crossman anyway, he got lost. And everybody thought he deserted and gone. He was hiking back to Peterborough, you see. Anyway, there was a great search party on, and all across in that back area beyond the road. It's very dense, and you could get lost back there so easily, and it wasn't funny. So we were always careful about that. I mean, it was just a good camp experience,
The 50s.
The 50s, okay. So how old would you have been when you attended?
Not quite teenager yet.
Okay, so you're pretty young.
Pretty young camper.
What is your fondest memory or memories of your camp experience?
I have 3 precious memories.
Okay.
And the first one is arriving, and for the first time ever, from a strong nuclear family where I walked up the block to my public school. Suddenly, I was in an outdoor camp environment in a cabin with no running water and no electricity, and 8 other people. And it was very exciting to meet my mates and then to draw an upper bunk. Never heard of it. So it was a very exciting experience to encounter new people in an environment that I was unaccustomed to, and to make these bonds and friendships, and a pretty unique experience at Camp Kawartha.
Right. Now, with those early experiences, were you nervous? Were you excited only, or was there a little bit of nerve when you got there?
My second two memories bring on the pangs of homesickness at first. I loved the morning reflections. Morning reflections happened at the edge of Clear Lake on logs that were on a slant towards the river's edge. And it was a time when the camp counselors gave us core values of cooperation and kindness and support to each other. Just a moment of pause, an anchor for our day's activities. So I really treasured that top of the morning moment of pause. And my other favorite memory would have been into the evening in a big burning campfire at the edge of the water with the sunset burning on the other side of the lake, and the lowering of the flag while we sang camp songs. And to this day, the Camp Kawartha songs remain sort of firmly a part of my character. Were there pangs of homesickness? Sure. Yeah. When I first arrived, even though I've been brought up on the shore down the lake by my dad and family, where my dad and granddad built the cottage, it was that close. But still, there's pangs of homesickness until it was overcome with the wonderful memories of the activities of the camp.
Right. Did you form any lasting friendships while you were there?
Only generally.
Right.
People that went to the camp dispersed in universities and careers, but I remember them as canoers, or as my mates in the mess hall having great food, or down at the shoreline lowering the flag at the day's end. But one figure was a camp counselor, a very kind mentor and role model for young girls, Judy McCartney. And she was very special to me and had a heart that encouraged and fostered confidence, which I think is one of the beautiful gifts of Camp Kawartha, is that girls may arrive very completely secure in their family or from other circumstances, but inside the camp, that affirmation of who you are and also that pushing of what you can be, combined in a very unique combination, an equation that lasts with you a lifetime.
Do you remember any other of the staff that were there? Do you remember
the cooks?
The cooks, of course.
We would call them out at the end of every meal and give them a round of applause, because we were always starving. We did a lot of running and a lot of activity, so we appreciated the cooks. And learning how to say thank you was also a part of the rhythm of the camp. So I remember the cooks. I remember the leaders of canoeing and swimming, not specifically, but just their concern and their care and their carefulness with detail, which escaped my attention. I was young, but there was rigor in the life preservers and the rules that regulated how much fun we had at camp.
Right. Do you remember some of the activities that you participated in that you loved the most, like any adventures or chores or anything like that?
I remember going down to the outdoor basins to brush our teeth at night and go to the outhouse before retiring to the upper bunk. I pulled the upper bunk.
Yeah.
And that was pretty unique for a young girl to be immersed in new friendships. And in the evening, instead of retiring in a secure house with electricity and running water, you went to a cabin, put on your pajamas, and as a group went down to the open air basins and brushed your teeth together, giggling and laughing at the memories of the day. And so that was a sort of special, unique rawness, outdoor connectedness that mightn't have ever arisen had I remained so protected inside a beautiful family. So the camp pushed me to the edge of my comfort zone and then embraced me with lots of good boundaries so I could learn to be more than I ever thought I could be.
Right.